applicant. Is Mr. Bellini in the house?
He is.
He is. Come on in, Dante Bellini.
Hey, Josh.
Come right here. I'll sit you there. You brought some hardware?
I did.
Yeah, what do we got there?
So, on behalf of the Rhode Island State Police and the Department of Transportation, we've won an Emmy for the series called Beyond the Crash. And it was a series of vignettes about sort of the backstory of what goes through a trooper's mind or a first responder's mind when they come upon scenes of just a horrific nature. And we wanted to examine that a little bit more closely with the hopes of putting this out there and giving people a sense of the carnage that's occurring on the highways as a result of impaired driving.
The series was both in video, it was in social media, it had a lot of aspects to it.
And you folks were kind enough to put it out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, it really had, there were some elements of it, on the highway, right there, deaths. These were real, actual cases of troopers having to deal with calling the family of, I think in one case, parents dying.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And children left parentless. That's a tough. It's tough enough to do it. It's a tough enough thing to put into video. How did you approach it from a creative standpoint?
So we really wanted to do this in a way that was both respectful to the victims, but also had a cinematic feel to it. So to that end, and I think Eric Latek was right here at one point. We worked with Eric Latek, who has a real cinematic sense about him. He's a filmmaker, and David Sabatka, and the crew at RDW, and we did pre-interviews with the troopers, and we had great cooperation from everyone at the command staff and everyone at the state police. And these are people that typically don't want to talk about their vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And so it was a very different kind of work that they were asked to do.
Yeah.
And we delved into sort of the dark places that they've been in with respect to very specific crashes. Again, the bottom line hopefully was to be more affirming in the sense of bringing awareness to something that most people don't really give a second thought about, and to do it in a compelling way and an emotional way. And to that end, I think that they were successful.
You've worked with the state police for a long time.
Correct.
Probably this was a different relationship because it was so kind of first person and real.
Yeah.
What was the biggest surprise in working and developing the campaign that kind of hit home for you from your standpoint?
First of all, that everyone got it.
Yeah.
So everyone at DOT, gave you a body,
Right.
Director Alvidi, Colonel O'Donnell was the sort of spearheaded this at the time, Kevin Barry, that they all got it. But the thing that sticks with me most is the commonality of feeling. So whether you were a road trooper 20 years ago, or you're a young guy or woman right now, the sense is the same, the feeling is the same, and they don't want to do this. This is not a part of the job that they really want to do, but someone has to do it, and they do it. And this applies to all first responders. It's not just the state police, although they're charged with the highways.
Do the state police, when someone is killed on a state highway, are they the ones responsible for?
They're typically the first responders.
Yeah, and they're the ones going to the home at 2 o'clock in the morning and knocking on the door?
And that was another piece. No parent, nobody wants to get a knock on the door at 1 in the morning, 10 in the morning. No one wants to see that car in the driveway. So that was another piece that really left a big mark on me. And I think some of the troopers revisiting that feeling, I mean, they can remember names, dates, houses. It's just, completely amazing.
Talk a little bit on the excitement. I mean, listen, from the standpoint of being recognized for the work and what it meant for everybody who put in the time and energy. And you probably won't say it. People don't understand when you do a campaign like this, you might be getting a small fee or reimbursed for some creative production time, but people are pouring in literally hundreds and hundreds of hours on the agency side to make this thing really work and cut it and clean it up and push it out, and et cetera, et cetera. And so what did it mean to get recognized in that way?
It means a lot, and as I said at the award ceremony on Saturday night, it's really about the first responders. It's not about us. I mean, we were the vessel by which to tell their stories.
Yeah.
But I had a great team. It was the A team of A teams.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot. We would do this work for free. We can't, but we
Right.
would do this work for free. And we give a lot to do it, but they deserve it. The state police, the Providence police, the paramedics, they all deserve
Yeah.
to be recognized for what they do, because it's not something that I would ever want to do.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
It's because you're tall.
Oh.
Tall and
Should I go down?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Talk a little bit about the overall experience at the Emmys, where it was in
Boston, Copley, yeah.
Yeah, and some other Rhode Island
Yeah.
picked up some, Channel 12.
Channel 12, Ted and his team,
Yeah.
Ted, Timmy,
Yeah.
Dan McGowan, they
Yeah.
all won for an investigative piece.
And Channel 10.
Channel 10 won for best mid-market, I think, best station.
Great.
So there were a couple of Rhode Island winners as well.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
'Cause, those Boston people tend to overpower
Yeah,
those.
it was.
Those,
It was
big-
overpowering. So when they called our name, it was pretty cool.
Did
Yeah.
you know ahead of time?
Had no idea.
Oh, really? You had no idea?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
yeah.
And then, what was the reaction from state police, DOT,
I think everyone's pleased. It's an award.
Right.
You know how these things are. This is pretty special because, an Emmy does carry some stature to it, some cachet. But I mean this in all sincerity. This is really about them. This
Yeah.
is really about these men and women who do things that are just incredibly courageous and so necessary. It's such a necessary evil in many ways.
Yeah.
And they get it done, and they clean up the scene, and they figure out how something happened, and we all go on our merry way. They're left with these scars, and you could say that, okay, well, that's what they signed up for. Nobody signed up to see the stuff that they see, and we
No.
wanted to put that sense out there. And maybe if it stops one person, it's a
Right.
win.
Yeah, I mean, there's another vignette about the crash reconstruction team and what they have to go through, and the beyond twisted metal and
Yeah.
carnage that takes place
Yeah.
in one of these situations. When did you start it? And then when did it? I have a good idea of when it ran,
Yeah.
and it continues to run a little bit.
It continues,
as
yeah.
a PSA.
Yeah, there's over 2 million views.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty good.
And then is there kind of a measurement to see what the impact is? And
Well, it's anecdotal at
Yeah.
best. I mean, we know the metrics of who's watching it, how long they watch it. And
Sure.
That's all great. So by those standards, it's wildly successful. But we've heard anecdotally about how it has affected people,
Yeah.
and that's what really matters to us. And people showing it to classes and to showing it to friends, and so it's both a victim and offender piece at the same
Yeah.
time.
right.
You know.
Do you see? Will we only see the change in behavior when we go to driverless cars?
I don't know, yeah. I don't know. The change of behavior has to be, it really has to be something that is a mindset, and it has to be that people really understand that they're driving a 4-ton, weapon.
Yeah.
And if they don't understand that, and they're not responsible, you can see the distracted driving out there every day.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
So, we have impaired driving, we have distracted driving. It's a real concern.
And when you say impaired, drunk or high or
Drunk or high,
impaired,
it
yeah,
could be medicated.
right. A little
And
Tiger Wood-esque.
yeah, and we're very fortunate that we have people like those that we have in command at the state police and at local police departments, and that we have someone like Director Alviti, who truly understands that and appreciates the need for getting this message out. Gaby Abadi is another person
Yeah.
who works tirelessly on this. Chief Lacrosse in Barrington.
Yeah.
So we have a pretty good infrastructure. We just got to keep getting a message out, but the message has to be compelling, and that's why I think that this sort of message sort of cut above the clutter.
While we've got you here,
Yeah.
Go Local's written a lot about the state's advertising campaign for tourism. You know, I think in our mind, it just doesn't seem like that's that complicated an element, but somehow we've made it a complicated matter. We've spent a tremendous amount of money. I think most people in Rhode Island were glad to see RDW and Nail as two of the firms selected to kind of reposition this thing and get it going forward. They were glad to see your Rhode Island companies, you know. If one thing Rhode Island's got a tremendous amount of talent in is advertising and design capabilities. This is not something we need to outsource. So how's that going? Is there any update you can give us? And
well, I don't work specifically on that project, but I do know that it's working well. We have the media portion of it,
right,
which is you know, a smaller component of it. But I think everyone is working collaboratively. I think that there's good leadership, and you know, so far so good.
Right.
I think that there's a much clearer vision.
Right.
From what I understand.
Yeah, I think people will be excited to see it and feel it and touch it. You know, it's an amazing thing about what took place before, because it's that, you know, this isn't amorphous. People can just see a logo and say that makes sense or doesn't make sense.
Right, right.
And I think that was part of the initial reaction of,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And then just give us an update on the firm. I mean, RDW's a 20-year-old firm?
Oh, a little older.
A little older?
So
20-something-year-old firm?
We have
and,
around 86 people across 3 offices.
Yeah, right.
A little different than when you were there.
Yeah.
And you know, we're focused on healthcare, academics, nonprofit, utilities.
Yeah.
So across the spectrum, we do it all.
Yeah.
And I think we do it well.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And what do you see the future of RDW advertising? Providence has always been, I mean, it's historically been, whether you go back to the 70s where there was some Horton churching off, to Leonard Monahan and Pagano Shank and Kay that kind of put the city really on the map on a national level, and then RDW and Nail from a creative standpoint. Where do you see the market going, and what's the opportunity? Is it kind of, could this, we talk about making hubs in the city, isn't design, creativity, you know, one of those business sectors that can really take off here?
Well, one of the things that Rhode Island doesn't lack is a talent pool.
Yeah.
We have an incredible talent pool right here. We can do everything. We have great thinkers. We have great creative people. And the future of our business, and you do it here, is about storytelling. It's about good storytelling, and it's about figuring out how to reach people to tell that story. So there's like 2 parts of it. And I think that, you know, we can talk about metrics and analytics all day, and they're crucial, right? But, you know, the world is going digital. But it's still, it comes down to what's the story, why is the story meaningful? And if you can really crack that code, and let me tell you, we have people around here that have been cracking that code, and then figure out where to get it, where to put it. It's you know, it's a win. So we're very fortunate. We live in a time and a place that is just chock full of really wonderful talent.
Yeah, it's really interesting, you know, as our business has really started to grow, you know, people want to know the numbers. And I think one of the elements that's getting a little lost in a digital age is the creativity and the creative, the design, the actual design. And, you know, a new campaign comes over and we'll call them after 3 days and go, we need to change the creative because it's just not creating the level of interaction. And, you know, I don't know, we've delivered 1.2 billion total ad units to date. You can decipher what people are looking for and what's going to drive somebody to click through and start a transaction. That's the beauty of digital.
But that's a great point you just made. So that's why the numbers are important. That's why the metrics are important.
Totally.
So if you've gone out on the limb with some creative that's just not working, you have the opportunity to change it. So, you know, the numbers dictate the creative in some ways,
right.
You know, especially if you haven't done the proper research going into it.
Right. We one time got a creative campaign from one of the utilities, and it was this you know, flash ad that was almost like 12 seconds long, and it was about downloading the app for when power outages. Well, it was too long,
right?
So nobody ever really saw it,
right?
And the click-through, which is, you know, one of the metrics you look at, was, you know, we just said flatten this thing out. Let's make it a little simpler.
Well,
And-
you know, we're really proud of the fact that we're doing a lot of storytelling
Yeah.
that is meaningful. So,
Yeah.
you know, we want to do good work and we want to do successful work and we want to be paid for it,
Yeah.
obviously. But, you know, we're doing such really wonderful work on behalf of clients that are providing, you know, a true service to humanity in many respects. So, you know, we have some great creative that we've just finished for the University of New Mexico Cancer Center
Yeah.
in Albuquerque. That is probably the best stuff I've ever seen that we've been associated
That's
with,
great.
and some of the best stuff I've ever seen that Jeff Patch and Phil Lasco have spearheaded. And, you know, we're doing so much work for, like, DOH here
Yeah.
locally on different discrete programs that Jim Pontarelli is spearheading. That is real, well, you know, very thoughtful.
Appropriate, sensitive,
appropriate.
right.
It makes sense in its environment, and so, you know, we love that sort of opportunity where we're able to, you know, get work and do good work.
Yeah, that's right. Anything else?
No,
Any other big
appreciate
excitement?
appreciate you wanting me to come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. It's
Thanks.
a big honor, and, you know, I think too often people don't take a break and, you
Yeah.
know, have a little sip of coffee or whatever that they
Yeah.
want to sip and not drive, and take a moment to reflect on an accomplishment like that. You know, it was a breakthrough campaign. I think it punched through at every level. That you guys did an amazing job just on the PR on the campaign.
Yeah.
I think that was a little bit of the secret to it. It wasn't just the campaign, it was the PR on the creative and the storytelling behind
Get
that.
people to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is about them, though. It's about them.